Antonius from Pace, if he's there, but I think so, yes.
Yep. Hi, guys.
There is. All right.
Hey.
So we're saying goodbye,
Hey.
Benji. Thanks for your time. Have a nice afternoon. Tune in whenever you have the time. And we're saying hello to Antonio.
Hi there, Iris. Good to see you again.
Tony.
Oh, all the girls are getting excited. What's going on?
Where's Tony?
I'm coming to you from the student hotel in Berlin. I'm sitting in one of Philippe's rooms. They were kind enough to give me a room, so I have some peace and quiet to do this broadcast. Good to be here.
Great.
Different preparation from the guys earlier.
Yeah.
We're sitting at the same hotel, but somewhere in the breakfast room or something. I don't know.
Mini ITB.
Yeah, okay.
So big shout out to Philip Ibrahim from the student hotel.
We'll let him know.
I think he's currently working like 36 hours a day and making everything happen.
Yeah, he's an amazing host. He's everywhere. It's pretty busy too. It's nice.
Yeah. Kudos to Philip. What do you need? And Antonius, we spoke last night already and we tested and stuff, but coming back to our standard process, which we do for all 30 minutes, quick introduction about yourself, then a 60 seconds pitch on what your lovely company is doing, and then you can share your screens and talk us through. And please, we have lovely experts here that know everything about revenue management. That's at least what they said yesterday.
I never claimed that.
No, not true. So give us some time as well within that 30 minutes time window to ask questions as well, and obvious to the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be keeping it short. Iris, please be gentle with me. Just a little side note. All right. Well, name's Tony. I guess I'm a passionate hotelier turned tech. I've been in the tech world for 5 years. Worked for Snapshot a few years and have now progressed into the RMS world. Based in Berlin. Pace basically is a tool that combines deep science with a very innovative approach to pricing your rooms. It's got a very easy to use interface. It's very fast and reliable in terms of implementation, and it can work with all types of lodging products, basically hybrids, hotels, service apartment operators. And it provides solutions in the area of price suggestions, price pushing, forecasting, comparison to budget, so budget entry is possible, and reporting. That's my little elevator.
That was quicker than I thought, actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it short, and for the purpose of having time to speak to you guys and to challenge me, hopefully.
Absolutely, we will.
In my presentation.
Do you want to share your screen? Exactly.
Okay. I'm just about to.
We can see it already, and it's gonna flip over in a second. Yeah, here we go. Please go ahead.
Excellent. So the company was founded 4 years ago. It's a team of 30 based in London, some really high horsepower people from the tech world, science world, and revenue management. We've got over 300 customers currently connected to the system in 40 countries. As I said, we service all types of lodging properties, and 100% cloud-based. I'm going to talk to you a little bit. Do you see the actual screens? Hang on, let me put this off. Yeah. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we at Pace see revenue management and what our solution is, because there are many ways of doing revenue management, as we know in the industry today. For us, it's got a lot in common with card counting in Vegas or doing the weather forecast. So it's basically a probabilistic mathematic exercise of going through a lot of data to find the right price and match that price with the demand out there. There are different pillars in revenue management: demand, segmentation, pricing, and distribution. For the purpose of this presentation, we'll be focusing on pricing. Obviously, there is forecasting that belongs in here as well, but we kind of shove that into the demand corner for the purpose of this presentation. And Pace basically sees sort of the exercise as a matching of price, demand with supply, and the way of one of the ways of influencing the demand for your property is by changing price, right? There are other ways of doing it, but for the purpose of this presentation, obviously we're going to look at pricing, as it is also the most time-consuming task of a revenue manager. Other ways of influencing demand, obviously, is by increasing your marketing and your advertising spend. That's a very important area, should also be interlinked with the area of pricing and revenue management. And of course, there is a way of influencing demand by yielding by channel and looking at different segments. And since price parity has fallen in most European markets now, hotels have a very good way of yielding by channel as well to increase the bottom line. So let's take a look at the process of revenue management, very basic here. So we gather information, that's how it's being done. We analyze the information, we forecast demand, we take pricing decisions, we implement those prices, and then we monitor the outcome, which for hotels typically is the pickup that our decisions generated. Note that this is not a closed loop, it's just a process. So we're actually missing the connection between these two, and I'll get back to that a little later. There are many simplified ways of going about revenue management. This is one of the simplest methods. It's an occupancy-based sort of a bar approach where you close off certain lower rates and open up higher rates. The higher you are in occupancy. Obviously, that disregards certain things such as the willingness to pay in the market or other market conditions out there, or even the trend in pickup. It gets more complex, obviously. All revenue managers in hotels do have quite complex spreadsheets. Or another way of simplifying revenue management is simply latching onto a comp set and just making sure that the hotel remains within the market in terms of pricing. The way we see revenue management at Pace is basically a very complex problem, mathematical problem that consists of a lot of different areas. Again, we're going to focus on the pricing part here today. There's a lot of science that went into revenue management in the past years, and we very much have this approach that we want to solve the problem of forecasting demand, analyzing demand, and then coming up with the right price suggestion in a scientific, deeply mathematical way. Right. So that's the approach that Pace is taking, with the goal of basically plotting the ideal price path in this thicket of demand that we see here. And by doing so, basically capturing the most bookings without overcharging those guests that are only willing to pay less, and without undercharging the ones that are actually willing to pay more. Right. So that's the big question here. And the way Pace does it basically is by real-time algorithms. So there's a system of algorithms that works through the hotel's primary data, which contains a ton of signals if you read it properly, thus giving hotels a way to say goodbye to static pricing. So the continuous pricing methodology of constantly, every hour, analyzing the booking streams and the on-the-books situation, and comparing that to models that it has generated on the hotel in the learning phase, keeps hotels always in the optimal price range. We give a hotel a way to do independent analysis based on their own data. So no more need to constantly be being locked onto competitors. We're not saying you should not look at competitors out there. You should actually, but using competitor pricing as a key metric to take continuous pricing decisions is something which you don't need with Pace anymore, because we read enough from the data of the hotel itself. And one thing that hotels can expect if they work with Pace is a true pathway to automating a large part of the mundane daily pricing work that hotels need to do. So let's see where that puts us in our process that we just saw. We basically closed the loop that was open before. So the system runs through the same steps, but by entering a feedback loop from the monitoring stage, basically telling the system what the results of the implemented prices were and what was sold and what was not sold and expected to be sold, the system is then enriching these models that it generates on the hotel and thus getting more and more intelligence and can be more precise the longer that it runs in the property. Ramp up time is 6 to 8 weeks, so it basically gives suggestions from day one, but it's fully ramped up and has gathered enough data to really price according to the needs of the hotel 6 to 8 weeks into going live. Now, this previous slide that we just saw is something you need to do every time you look at your pricing, right? So, and that you'd actually need to do continuously. So, in a highly dynamic market such as Berlin or any other big city, things change every hour because your on the books changes, your market conditions around you change, your own pricing changes, and that puts the hotel in a completely new situation basically every hour, every 3 hours. So our algorithm works really fast. The system reads and evaluates the on the books and the pickup every hour, 365 days out, and gives basically the hotel the ability to readjust pricing to new situations of demand. How do we do it? Well, we're using the power that computers give us. Processing speed has multiplied, storage space is multiplied. The way that algorithms work is simplified and gives many more possibilities, and has brought us things like instant translation, for example. So we're basically harnessing the things that the second machine age is giving us, which is more powerful computing. Putting the hotels in a situation where if they implement technology in these areas where humans simply cannot cope with the amount of data, it puts them in a potential situation of being able to adjust pricing many more times to new demand situations, increased demand situations, and of course then as a result capturing more and more revenue opportunities, right? Which then eventually will make hotels and these businesses more money. That's what it's all about. It's about generating marginal increases in your revenue. We've got RI factors between 10 and 20. That's normal. Increases between 3 to 15% year over year is something that we constantly see with hotels that work with us. And of course, they know that finally that area of pricing is finally covered, and they can then turn to other more important things such as strategy and managing their special seasons. I've got a few slides here. I'm not going to take you to a real demo because that will be too lengthy, but I just wanted to give everyone an idea of what the system looks like. Basically, there is a first page. Iris, you will recognize this from snapshot days. Looks very much like the dashboard. It's basically the KPIs of the hotel, nicely arranged by room type as well, if you want it. Giving distribution channels, market segments, and always the booking curve. There's price suggestions, obviously, that we give. So we basically filter out those days and signal those days, highlight those days that where demand is increasing, and we provide price increases. Hoteliers have obviously parameters that they can enter in the system, floor and ceiling rates, so they know that the system has a certain range that it can work in. There are special events that you can enter. You can always look at transparently at the way pickup comes in, your pace in relation to your selling price and to your minimum and maximum settings. Like I said before, there is intelligent automation that you can switch on, still remain in control, and override and freeze your decisions so the system doesn't go overriding again. But the price suggestions and sending out the rate potentially can be automated in a very easy manner. And there's forecasting as well, which has between 5 and 8% of accuracy. in the next 90 to 120 days. So hotels always get on the book, same time last year, whatever they need to see, how they closed the month the previous year, forecast, and obviously the comparison to their initial goals, the budget. For the bigger hotels, we offer group management and revenue displacement analysis as well. So you can enter your group requests in here, and the system will tell you if and how much revenue is being displaced if you offer the group at a certain rate level. These are the interfaces that we currently service. Like I said, over 300 customers, a lot from the hostel world. The system adapts very nicely to all kinds of different special inventory situations, multi-bedded rooms, as well as just normal rooms, or a combination of both. So like I said, I raced through quite fast. I had trimmed the presentation down to the basics, and I'm happy to enter in a discussion with you guys.
That's so cool. Thank you so much. And it's so great to see actually the very colorful logo of Teleport Hotels, because that was designed by us.
That's totally perfect. I mean, from the timing, like it's exactly like 10 minutes open for questions. You've so far managed your time best, I would say.
Yeah,
no? Like
absolutely.
from everyone.
Absolutely.
It's perfect.
And of course, it's all relevant content in there. So great presentation also for me. Quick question. Obviously, the features we are seeing, they are kind of like a little bit comparable to other providers. So my question for you would be, what are your plans moving into the future in terms of revenue management, i.e. profit management? Because I could see you're already calculating costs of acquisitions. So I guess revenue management will be a time of the past in like a few years, and then we will call it profit management only. What are your plans in terms of supporting hotels achieving such a profit management strategy? Can you educate them as well, or do you help them during the onboarding process?
We don't have that on the pipeline yet, I'll be honest. So basically looking at GOPs and cost levels, variable costs and fixed costs, something that we don't have at this moment. So what we're going to do is maybe with the channels, we'll be implementing cost of sales in terms of commission levels and giving hotels a way to yield by channel. That's something that will come not in the immediate pipeline. The next things that we will implement in end of Q1 and Q2 are dynamic rate plan management. So basically yielding the difference between the certain rate plans, a more detailed way of budgeting, and most importantly, we're going to ramp up our BI capabilities as we're attaching a BI tool, a white label BI solution, which will give hotels basically endless ways to work with this performance data that we're importing. But the total profit management that you asked is something that we haven't progressed into yet.
Mm-hmm. No, I was going to ask as well about the sales and the acquisition cost for like thinking, for example, of the commissions and whatnot. So what data sources, like coming like to that, what data sources do you currently use? Is it purely the PMS, or are you?
It's purely PMS. It's transactional data, booking data. So the data points are market segments, channels, room types, date stamps, basically when the reservation came in, arrival, departure date, and pretty much like the old snapshot days, only that we then have the technology behind it to work with that data, not just in a BI sense of doing a BI with them and just displaying them, but actually analyzing them and reading the data and seeing signals. And with these models that are built in the background, the system constantly explores ways of increasing rates by constantly monitoring what business comes in. So
you're getting as well the ARI data, right?
Yes, and there's obviously in the ramp up time, the system familiarizes itself with the way the property behaves in its market in terms of price elasticity. It does seasonal analysis, so day of the week analysis. It looks at weekend days and midweek days in different ways. And the hotels obviously have their own parameters that they can enter in the system to make sure that it stays within the price ranges that they want to be in. But the actual daily yielding and seeing where to increase rates on which day and by how much, that's exactly where the constant analysis of the algorithms comes in.
I mean, it's so funny, when Tony and I were still on the same side, meaning at Snapshot, we were working with Pace on this, on like, like on the integration and all of that. So,
so Tony, at the very beginning, you spoke also about demand generation, which I find very important indeed for hotels, not just wait for something to happen and, you know, keep the fingers crossed, but actually get active, right, to do something. So are you consulting the hotels on where to market their hotels, on which social media channels, or how can you assist them?
No, actually, I left that slide in because it's so important, and it's such an important discipline.
I agree,
we don't consult, so we don't pretend to be online marketing or e-commerce experts. We leave that to our good friends from the consulting world to do, and refer them back to them. But we propagate that these areas be connected and interlinked, ideally. And that it's not just being given to whoever person seems to have time to do it, because it's very specialized, and you can actually move a lot by placing the right emphasis on marketing and advertising. And of course, then the whole area about attribute-based pricing and personalized pricing is something which is being discussed a lot. I've left this out because I didn't want to this to turn into a lecture and a huge discussion about revenue management in general, but obviously that's quite an important area as well that hotels are starting to focus on, although it's quite controversial, because if we as a consumer get a price which is just right for us, it means that someone looked at our little cookies that we left everywhere. So it kind of gives a very, very weird feeling. So there's still a discussion going on in that area. So we don't focus on the marketing side at all. We're specializing on reading hotel data and telling hoteliers with a very simplified way in the front end of where they can actually, where they have revenue opportunities.
Great, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, perfect, cool, thanks.
I do have questions.
But it was a very good presentation, so we answered lots of questions.
Absolutely. So if I remember it correctly, and that's in comparison, I'm not a revenue management expert, so don't hang me if I'm completely off or whatever. But if I'm understanding it correctly, Pace is not based on competitive data at all. Is that still the case?
That's correct, yes.
Can you walk us through that? Why is that, and why is that different or whatever?
Well, looking at competitor data is okay, and you need to be doing that, right? So you need to position your hotel within your competitive surroundings, right? You need, and by entering your minimum and your maximum rates in the system, you're basically already positioning yourself within that market. Now, we also propagate that hotels actually have, you know, their rate shopping tool as well, and eventually in a couple of months' time, we will actually also be importing market data into the BI tool and then be visualizing it in Pace, but only visualizing it, right? We're not utilizing, we're not basing each and every revenue pricing decision on competitor data, simply because it's not necessary anymore. And there are too many questions and question marks attached to competitor data. Obvious ones, like we don't know what our colleagues in the other hotels have on the books. We don't know why they take their decision. By the time we look at their prices, they might have gone stale and they might have taken new pricing decisions. So it's an incomplete way in our way of thinking of doing revenue management. Why should you latch onto what your neighbors are doing when you can actually get so much more insights and signals from your own data, which is actually the most relevant data, because it's guests booking your hotel and showing you what they're willing to pay for your hotel, right? So it's we're not demonizing it at all, and there's different ways, but we're just saying that with this system, you don't need to be constantly looking at competitor data to price yourself.
So the ideal solution in your context would then be, as far as I understand, to use some, if you want to still monitor that, but take the decisions independently, to have your tool doing the automation process and really look into your own data. And then have another tool like Beyond Price, H2 Plus, OTA Insight at the same time to have a glimpse on what your competition is doing.
For example, yes, indeed, exactly. We're not saying that the revenue manager will have nothing to do when he works with PACE or any RMS, as a matter of fact. There's lots to do actually, but it shouldn't be the mundane looking at which day to increase rates and by how much. It should be more strategic and tactical things, and actually getting an overview of the market, looking and seeing what is happening in the market, and then injecting that intelligence, human intelligence, into the system by going into the system periodically every 3 hours, every hour, and doing your own corrections. But basing the whole system of pricing and price evaluation and price suggestions on competitive data, so competitor-centric pricing, is something that is a thing of the past, really, because you don't need to be doing it anymore. There are systems like PACE that and other systems that are coming up now that can do a much better job, because they work with a very deep analysis with the hotel data, which is the most relevant, really.
Amazing.
And I think if you wanted to look at competitors' data, the real interesting thing would be to look at occupancy, but no one gives you that. You know, inventory, yes, but you don't get occupants from. If you could really see like what the occupancy is like across like the city, of course.
Profiter is working on that.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not yet there, like really common. But that is a bit. Even then,
I know something about revenue management,
yeah,
huh? Are you impressed?
But even then, it's like, who will really give you the real picture of that if they don't have to? And you know, if you can only correlate the data, if you look at booking.com and whatever, and then kind of land somewhere. But if you had the true picture, poof.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
We're running out of time, but I want to ask one more thing.
Yeah.
Especially in times of Corona and cancellations and whatever, and everything is changing. Like, how would PACE or your solution, being based on AI and machine learning, I guess, so react to a situation like that? What happens in your system right now?
Well, it's as it works very frequently. So basically, it updates every hour and adapts to new situations every hour. It will see cancellations coming in, and by looking at the lead time that the hotel has left to sell, it will take pricing decisions, and the shorter the lead time and the higher the inventory that needs to be sold, it will also recommend then to go down with the rate. Absolutely. Clearly, there are situations, market situations, where it takes someone navigating the system to inject that intelligence into the system, right? So if you buy a Porsche with the best brakes in the world and a tree falls in front of you, you're basically screwed, right? So you need to. This is a stupid analogy, but there are certain situations where the revenue manager needs to look at the market, but the system will be fast and very sensitive enough to pick up on cancellations, and it will show them in the pickup report as red fields. And if you don't have enough time to sell that inventory, it will suggest lowering prices, which will then again react to a market situation, right? Because there's more inventory in the market anyways.
Sorry. Can you set up like a special event so it's executed next year, same time, so that it's not calculated in the algorithms?
And I was going to go to the same, because he said earlier like that you can set up the events. So I was going to go like, so obviously in this situation, when you take out ITB now, but there is ITB last year, if you look at last year's data, and you have next year, the system will pick that up. But then again, it's what Tony was saying, someone manually has to interject at that point to make sure that.
And I think that's such an important point. He said it twice, actually. It needs a person sitting in front of the software. No revenue management system is going to solve problems for you. It's only going to be as good as the input it gets from the users, right? So
right.
It's very good
right.
comment. Yeah.
It's a virtual colleague that will help you with those tasks where human minds are simply not capable of grasping, pick up information over time, right? They only see certain snapshots, but not trends over time. So this is where, and then of course you need to navigate the system. To answer your question about events, we have to break with another paradigm here. The system is agnostic to why things are happening, right? So it's built to react to basically market situations and demand situations. So there's no need really to interlink events last year, this year. There is ways of entering events just for purely information purposes, so you can make sense of the data that's happening, of the situations. But we don't connect to the same event last year to learn from it. The system learns actually more from future data.
Alrighty, Tony, I have to kick you out.
Yeah, do that.
This is not Angie and not Ilaria. This is
no,
Tony.
not yet. But we were 3 minutes over, and it's actually Ilaria's time already. Tony, your final question.
Yeah. So how are we going to find you in the next days? How can we contact you? You're at ITB, so how can the guys reach out to you?
I'm at the student hotel today and tomorrow in Berlin, and over LinkedIn, normal channels. But I'll be here at the student hotel in Berlin if anyone wants to come by and have a chat.
All right, awesome. Thank you again for taking your time. Say hello to the guys, to Jason, to Jens.
We'll do. Thank you for this opportunity.
And say hello to the guys as well in the student hotel. I wish you a wonderful time tonight as well with the party.
Thank you.
We are saying goodbye and switching over to Ilaria. Hopefully,
Bye, Tony.
Bye.
Bye, Iris. Bye, guys.